If I were starting my mental health journey all over again, these are the two things that I would focus on. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Linda and I am a doctor of acupuncture and Chinese medicine, and I love helping others find empowerment in their life's journey. So much of my work with clients is in the realm of mental health and helping to guide others on their mental health journey and helping them realize that they don't necessarily have to identify themselves with specific labels. My passion for mental health comes from my own struggles. My own personal mental health journey started over 10 years ago. I've done a lot of research, tons of self-experimenting. I've done so many tweaks, made changes, made modifications, and honestly at this point I'm still constantly making little adjustments here and there as I keep learning, as I keep gaining more experience, and as I keep doing more research. But if I had to start my mental health journey all over again with what I know now from my last 10 years of personal experience, as well as my last 7 years working in Chinese medicine and helping other clients along with their own struggles, these by far are hands down the two that I would focus on. So if you are struggling with your own mental health hurdles, don't fret. It does get better, it does get easier with time, and it definitely is not a lifelong sentence by any means. So I would highly suggest that you focus on these two things if you are starting your own healthcare journey yourself. They are super simple, but which doesn't mean that they don't take a little bit of work, right? The first thing that I would focus on would be routine and consistency. So much of anxiety is tied to being worried about the future or worried about things that haven't happened yet. Or maybe you're kind of going over and over in your mind something that you might have said or something that you might have done that if you could go back, you would change. And so it's like that constant worrying about certain things and things that are truly out of your control because they are not happening in the moment. Depression, same thing. It's being tied to certain things that have happened in the past that at this point can no longer be changed. And so the common theme here is a constant thinking pattern that many people find themselves stuck on. Sometimes anxiety doesn't even have to manifest with any kind of worry or fear, but it could also manifest in just those constant thinking patterns, trying to think ahead, trying to plan for the future that has not happened yet. And while some of that is totally necessary in order for you to have, a solid lifestyle, being productive, being able to make sure that you are taking care of all your responsibilities, it does get to a point where that becomes very much an inhibiting thing, and it can cause a lot of unnecessary distress and worry. So creating a routine gives you one less thing to worry about, one less thing to stress out about or have to think about in any specific way. Morning routines are really great in that they offer a way for you to ground yourself and for you to prepare yourself for the day ahead, especially if you have anxiety. It's really, really important that you make an effort to start your day off in a very calm and grounded way, incorporating whatever things it is that you need to make sure that you start your day off that way. Routine and consistency also translate to having a good bedtime routine, making sure that you're winding down properly, making sure that you're having those specific routines or specific strategies that you might have in mind to let go of whatever stress, whatever tension has been building up throughout the day, making sure that you're able to actually release that completely before you try to go to bed. I work with a lot of people who struggle with insomnia, and there's a couple of different patterns that insomnia presents as, but one of those is not being able to shut your mind off at night. You're constantly thinking, you're finally able to fall asleep, you wake up and you find yourself thinking again. It's a really awful and distressing pattern to be in, and it can be so stressful when you aren't able to get restful sleep and your mind is just constantly going, right? It also increases anxiety in its own way. So you end up in like this feedback loop where it just kind of keeps spiraling. So having like a good solid routine to help you get rid of all of that excess energy, get rid of whatever thoughts you have. I suggest maybe writing those things out on paper if you feel like you're constantly going over the same things over in your mind. Creating like a plan for the following day if you need to, creating some kind of reflection strategy. I love journaling at night to kind of help get rid of whatever it is that might be causing you some stress or worry. or even if it's not really any stress or worry, having like a gratitude practice that you can incorporate into your bedtime routine that also does wonders for helping to ground you and prepare your body for sleep. But the other benefit to having a good solid bedtime routine would be that you can help ensure that you are getting a good quality sleep, or at least creating consistency in your sleep routine, making sure you're going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time, which is going to promote more restful sleep for you, especially if you're someone who tends to struggle with insomnia or feeling like you just aren't getting enough sleep, even though you are getting enough sleep, struggling with low energy. So bringing it back to just like the routine part of it, it helps set the tone for your body to allow it to get into a predetermined flow where your body knows what to anticipate, knows at what time certain things are going to come up. So not just like your morning routine and your bedtime routine, but also having consistency around meal times, or around exercise, or a walk with your dog, or certain playtime activities with your children, things of that nature. Creating that routine and not letting it be kind of like a willy-nilly day-to-day frantic, what am I going to do today, when am I going to do it kind of thing, really just helps to ground your energy so much more than if you didn't have any consistency or routine built into your day. So for me personally, like my anxiety, and even to this day, I still sometimes struggle with that too, where my anxiety for me was always very paralyzing, where I didn't know what to do next, or I had this list of things that I knew would help me feel better, but I just couldn't get myself to do them, or I just didn't know what part of my day to do them in. So when I started building my routine, it allowed me to incorporate all of those things that I knew were going to be good for me at the end. And it allowed me to not have to think about them. It was almost like I was able to start coaching myself and getting myself into this rhythm of going on autopilot, where I know what happens, steps 1, 2, 3, what I need to get through in the mornings in order to feel my best, how I can start winding down for my bedtimes. Consistency around meal times too helped me make sure that I was eating properly to fuel myself, my activities, and to just give myself that grounding energy that the body really does need in order to function its best. So all in all, having a routine is going to allow you to make sure that your mental health is at its peak. The second thing that I would focus on would be eating high quality whole foods. Packaged foods, processed foods, all of those multi-ingredient, store-bought foods that you can find in a package or grab really easily from the deli counter, something like that. All of those foods are going to have a lot of junk in them, or most of them at least, are going to have a lot of junk in them. And all of those extra ingredients, the ones that are, synthetic or man-made in any way, they're going to be really hard for your body to digest. Even if you're not aware of it, your body is going to struggle to digest something that has tons of ingredients in it, stuff that you can't really pronounce. It's going to be a lot harder for your body to digest those things than it would be to eat like an apple or a piece of chicken or some rice, things like that. And what this is going to do in its most basic form is it's going to cause these little subtle signs of inflammation like brain fog or fatigue. In more severe cases, and I see it all the time, is eating the wrong foods or eating highly processed foods can cause some pretty significant health issues like eczema or having migraine headaches all the time, digestive issues, which makes sense with the foods that you're eating having digestive issues, your gut microbiome being out of balance. And it can also cause joint pain or other chronic pain issues, just to name a few. There's also a lot of other research that indicates that eating highly processed foods can cause a whole host of other issues further down the line. At the start of my journey, I was mostly focused on hitting my macros, staying to a certain calorie count, and that's probably just because I've been so involved in the fitness industry for such a long time that I was eating in order to look a certain way or to perform in a sense in a certain way. And while there's nothing wrong with that at all, if that is your journey or the path that you are on, counting your macros and making sure certain things fit so that you are eating in balance and wanting to eat certain favorite foods that you might have while staying within a certain calorie count, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But that style of eating doesn't really prioritize the energetics of the food itself unless you mindfully choose for that to be so. So earlier this year, I combined macro and calorie counting with eating more of an animal-based diet. And it was hard at first to kind of figure out what foods would agree with my system or what foods I could eat to still kind of meet those specific goals that I had. Once I figured it out, within like the first month or so, I started noticing that my skin was clearer, my energy was so much better, my gut felt a million times better. And if you've seen my other videos, you know that I really struggled with my gut health earlier this year and doctors couldn't figure out what was going on. But once I made these simple changes, everything kind of started to align itself. And I found for myself that when my gut wasn't constantly feeling inflamed, when I had better energy, when my skin was looking better, I just felt better, not just about how my body was responding to it, but also just mentally. It had a huge improvement in how much faster I was able to bounce out of those lows that come with just everyday life. And so as I continued progressing on this aspect of my journey, I just found myself being healthier and happier and more energized and just more grounded in myself. So in that sense, while you're eating those whole foods or making sure that you're incorporating more whole foods into your diet, it's also so important for you to start kind of connecting with your food in a more mindful way, connecting with the energetics of the food, paying attention to how certain things make you feel. If you eat something and it makes you feel sluggish, or if you eat something and you notice you break out the following day, paying attention to those little things is going to be an indicator of how your body is responding. So even if you're eating whole foods, there might just be certain things that don't agree with your system, where I can eat certain things you might not be able to eat, and vice versa. So it's really important when you are making this switch to really pay attention to how your body is responding, because that's going to be the biggest indicator of them all. And the reason why I would choose these two things to focus on, choosing routine and consistency, and choosing to make whole foods my number one priority, my two number one priorities, I guess you could say, is because it's going to lead to better energy. It's going to help you feel better in your body. It's going to help you feel more mental clarity. It's going to give you the motivation and the inspiration and the confidence that you can achieve all of those other things that would ultimately benefit your mental health as well, but you can't seem to quite get yourself there. Because I totally understand. I've been there myself, where I know that there's certain things that I need to start incorporating into my life, and I just can't get myself to do them for whatever reason, whatever mental blocks I have, or whatever excuses I might be able to make up for myself at the time. When you're feeling really good in your body, when you feel more grounded in yourself, it's going to allow you to start incorporating all of those other things. So looking back, I wouldn't change anything about my journey so far, but if I could choose just a couple things to focus on, it would definitely be creating consistency and routine right off the bat in all aspects of the word, and really prioritizing whole foods that nourish and energize my body versus just trying to fit certain things into a certain calorie goal or a certain macro goal. Because at the end of the day, when you aren't feeling good in your body and when you aren't feeling good in your mind with the anxiety, it's going to make everything so much harder to deal with. And so much of our anxieties and our fears and our worries is tied to how we feel. So making sure that your body is feeling its best is going to do wonders for your mental health, and it's going to really kickstart the journey that you're on. I constantly remind myself that my mental health struggles do not define me. Your mental health struggles do not define you. And really living in your new truth is just a few simple steps away.